Hello and welcome to the Pokemon Zoology podcast number 12. Thank you for coming back. If you've just tuned in, I do suggest going back and listening to the other ones. But yeah, guys, thank you for coming back and listening to this again. I really do appreciate it. We've got 2 Pokemon to go through this month. I kind of had a change in the way that I do things. So basically, I'm still doing 4 pictures a month. Especially, this is mainly for my Patreon supporters, but I'm still doing 4 pictures a month. However, 2 of them are going to be Patreon exclusives. So, you know, if you're not a Patreon supporter, you can still see the 2 main pictures that I do. Those are still going to go public. But then I'm going to do 2 other pictures, which are the size comparison pictures. And I didn't realize how much people like them, but they've been really popular. So I decided to crack on and get those done. So but basically it means that you get extra pictures each month compared to the rest of the world if you're a Patreon supporter. So I just wanted to do something special or more exclusive for them that I could kind of still fit into my schedule. Yeah, and one of the other things that I've been doing, which I talked about last podcast, but I've been creating these realistic looking creatures from mythology and folklore. The first one that I did was Chupacabra, and that did really well. And it really surprised me because so far all of my high liked pictures, if you could put it that way, have been Pokemon, which is understandable. That's where my fan base comes from. But the Chupacabra got equal, if not more, than some of my Pokemon pictures. So I was like, okay, well, there's something here. And I thought maybe it was a fluke. I thought, yeah, well, maybe this was just a one-off picture that people seem to like. But then I did a new picture to celebrate Halloween, actually 2 pictures technically, of creatures called Leshy. Now, originally it was, and a few people know this, it was meant to be a Wendigo from Native American mythology. However, a few people did come forward to me and they gave me some new facts, and which I appreciate. And I didn't realise this because there is very limited research into the actual mythology. But first of all, Wendigos are deemed as kind of offensive or taboo to talk about them or make art of them in the Native American culture, which, there are lots of people out there, lots of religions and stuff like that don't like to create images or talk about their deities and stuff like that. So that was the first thing that made me go, okay, well, I'm going to change this. Some people might say to me, oh, Lord, why'd you do that? It's still your picture. I'm like, well, we have to respect people's beliefs, especially, if I don't know enough about it. I've only just done a little bit of research online, and it's not fair for me to kind of like dig my heels in and be like, well, I don't care. This is my picture. I want to do it. It's like, you have to think about other people. So I decided to change that. And one of the other things that made me change it was that basically my depiction of it, I gave it like crazy weird antlers and like zombie dead body and stuff like that. But it turns out that basically the depiction of a Wendigo with horns and other things like that, or related to stags specifically, is wrong. Basically, the original concepts of Wendigos anyway were, they look like more like frozen, malnourished people. Some of depictions have seen them related to owls. Some have them related to like frost giants or frozen kind of giants with bodies inside. So there's a lot of stuff. I think the most popular consensus is that they just kind of look like a crazy, monstrous wild man that looks like frostbitten and scary and wants to eat people. In the 1970s, a director created a film called The Wendigo and, made it kind of like a half man, half stag creature without doing any research. He even said in an interview like, oh yeah, I did absolutely zero research until after I made the film, which is just so negligent. But that has bled into the concept and world of the Wendigo and has diluted it and twisted it. And I mean, that's Western culture for you. That's what we do to things like that. But yeah, so when I learned this, one of the main things, besides from the fact that I wanted to respect people's beliefs, was that I was just like, well, it just doesn't actually look like the original thing anymore. So I looked into stuff, and there's like games like The Witcher and whatnot that have touched on Leshy, but they call it Leshen. And I don't know whether or not that's actually like the Leshy has multiple names. I know a lot of mythological creatures do. But yeah, they look more like Leshy, or the creature that I made looks more like a Leshy. So it just made sense to kind of change it, and it was no skin off my back to do that. And the Leshy has its own creepy, exciting backstory of like protectors of the forest, and there's a lot of really cool stuff in there. So I was fine to change it. So, but yeah, the pictures that came out, people loved, and they got really high likes, and that was really exciting to me, not just because of the likes, and don't get me wrong, that's lovely. I love getting that sort of, like, you know, seeing people support and everything. You know, basically I can't do Pokemon for the rest of my life. That's always been in the cards for me. I've been like, I'm gonna have to draw a line in the sand at some point, because it's somebody else's IP. I can't grow it, I can't do anything. I want to have my own IP, and the mythological creatures concept was something that I've been playing with for quite a long time in the background. So to see that it's popular, or as popular as the Pokemon, is really exciting to me, because it means that I now can really start to grow that. I'm going to actually look into the possibility of creating a new Patreon page to support that, and then I can do, you know, sketches and mini stories as well to kind of fit in there, so you all get a bit of something. Because I did try and have the Patreon as a bit of like a catch-all thing with like Pokemon and Fakemon and dinosaurs and stuff like that, but the response was I didn't sign up for dinosaurs and Fakemon. I signed up for yours, Pokemon Zoology. So I understand that people sign up for things for very specific reasons, so because of that I decided I'll probably make a separate one. I'll probably announce that once I've got a few more creatures under my belt. I've got a few so far. I've probably done about 6, I think. But maybe when I hit the 10 mark, that's when I'll do it, and I can really gauge the kind of popularity of all the creatures and stuff like that. So, you know, that is the future for me. I'm still going to be doing the Pokemon until I've finished, and I've already started writing the book. So if you don't know, I want to create a book that's going to have loads of sort of like National Geographic information about the Pokemon. So it's kind of like an art book or coffee table book. Already talking to some editors about possibly working with people, but yeah, we'll just see how it goes. And I'll keep you guys up to date, especially when I eventually get around to doing a Kickstarter. Kickstarters aren't just about like, hey, I want to do this thing, give me money. There's a lot that goes into it in terms of like planning and shipping and making sure that everyone gets the rewards that they're promised and everything like that, and I don't want to jump into that without being prepared, basically. So yeah, it's going to be a bit of a process, but a worthy one, I think. So the first picture that we're going to talk about today is Dodrio. It was a fun one to do. I think it was a little bit challenging, more challenging than I thought it was going to be. I already knew that because the bird Pokemon, as I've said before, I really struggle with. This one was slightly easier because I didn't have to do any real like feather placement or anything like that, because they're just kind of balls of fluff. But then trying to make those sort of like pom-pom heads feel like they're from a real animal like was a little bit of a challenge. But yeah, I thought it worked out. I think it was I had a rough idea in my head of what I wanted it to look like. I was definitely drawing from things like terror birds and predatory birds and stuff like that, to try and bring in some interesting threatening elements, because obviously the head's essentially supposed to look kind of, I think it's angry, confused and scared or something like that, or happy, I think. And it's hard because a few people said to me when I did the final picture, they were like, oh well, you can't see those emotions, and I was like, well, I am depicting a realistic looking animal, you know. I'm not trying to do a anthropomorphized crazy looking bird creature. I'm trying to make it look like an animal. So there are ways of me being able to tweak things to look a little bit more angry or threatening and stuff like that. But you know, it's hard to kind of make something look silly, especially in the context of this, when they're supposed to be all one animal. And if you make them look too different, then it does look really jarring. Like it just wouldn't blend as a believable animal, and that's kind of the aim. But yeah, I did it in a sort of a sunset, which is different for me because a lot of the time sunsets and stuff like that tend to wash out the detail. It's a very ambient light rather than a directional light, and when I've done directional light pictures before, they seem to do better because they seem more realistic, really, because you're seeing all of like the bounce light and everything like that. With an ambient light thing, it looks a little bit flatter, it looks a little bit more painted. Some people in the past have not liked that. Thankfully, this time people really did. They thought that I didn't get any complaints, which was great, except for the emotions thing. But I think most people will agree with me. That's kind of a fair assessment if you're doing a realistic animal. But yeah, I was actually very happy with how the picture turned out. Did a lot of work in Photoshop. You can see the time lapse. It's up now on Patreon. It's not public to anyone yet. I will be... Basically, there's a massive backlog of time lapses that I've got on my YouTube channel that I haven't been releasing because they've been Patreon exclusive content, but I'm slowly bleeding out the much older ones. I'm slowly bleeding out so people can watch them as well. And do go to my YouTube and check that out, because I've got lots of really cool, interesting videos on how I've kind of created these pictures and stuff like that. So if that is something that catches your attention, go for it, check it out. The next one that we're talking about today is Fero. Again, feathers. I think because I'd already done Pidgeot, I kind of got a little bit into a flow of doing the feathers, so it was a bit easier to kind of like work on. I think it's always a challenge when I haven't done feathers for a really long time, and I come in, I'm just there like, how did I do this again? But yeah, again, so I wanted to make this look really quite scary. I wanted it to look endearing and powerful. You know, Fero's neck and stuff is really weird because they've made it really super thin with a massive kink in it, which I was trying to think of like, okay, well, why would that be in nature? Like, what could I do? And the main thing that I thought of was that it could be something to do with like fishing, kind of almost like the same way that we do spear fishing, where we kind of like snap a spear forward really quickly and stuff like that. And maybe that having this kink means that they can bend their neck backwards and then thrust it forward with great power to kind of spear fish their prey out of the water, whatever that may be, whether it is a fish or snakes or frogs or whatever. I don't think, you know, someone did suggest to me like, oh yeah, no, these probably ate people, and I was like, well, realistically, due to the beak shape and everything like that, probably not. They would definitely be a danger to humans, but I don't think that they would ever hunt humans. But yeah, I mean, I really did actually enjoy this picture at the end. It was intimidating, but one of the things that I really wanted to do, because while I'm doing the artwork, I often kind of come up with the concepts of the storyline that goes alongside it, because I write these mini stories to go with my pictures. And I wanted the story to be a continuation from the story I did from Pidgeot, where the main character was gearing up to go flying. So I came up with this whole kind of concept for that, and I had this image of just like flying atop the thing, and then this massive shadow coming down, and this big beak like snapping at someone. So I wanted to get some real motion in this picture, and I think I got that. And yeah, and I was just really pleased with how all of that came out. I did try loads of different positions, but overall most people said that they really liked this action shot of it coming towards the camera, and I knew that I could go in and do like a full body size one in the size comparison picture. I often get it whenever I do anything that's like a little bit more artistic or something like that, where you can't fully see the entire body, even if it's a very small amount. I still get people going, oh, it would have been nice to see the whole thing. And it's just like, dude, there's literally like a bit of feathers missing, or like there's a little bit of the body missing. Like, it's not the end of the world. Yeah, but I'd like to see the whole thing. Why? You're not missing anything. Like, I get it if I was like, did a picture and I did a Pikachu without its tail or something, that's quite an iconic piece, but you know, not the tip of something. I literally got about 3 messages from people saying like, why have you cut part of the wing off? I want to see that. I'm like, you can see the other wing, it's exactly the same. So yeah, people are strange, and I think generally that's why a lot of my artwork has been very on the nose in terms of like, hey, here's the creature. Do you know what I mean? It's not necessarily an action shot, it's not necessarily like dramatic or storytelling, it's more just kind of like, that's the creature. You know, I've experienced that over the years where I've tried doing that and I've had lots of complaints, so I've just kind of fallen into that routine. I definitely, with the creature thing, I definitely want to try and do more storytelling in my artwork, because not only is it more interesting, not necessarily more interesting, but just kind of like something different, but it helps me practice like more things, especially like things like environments and whatnot is something that I need to really work on. So yeah, so hopefully that will help. But Fero in general, I think the design worked out really well. I think it felt realistic. I was worried about how the eye might come across because the eye is so stylized in the anime. Did worry that might work, but actually, as soon as the eye got put in, I was just there like, okay, yeah, no, this works, it's fine. So yeah, really, really happy with Firo, and I hope you guys are as well. Okay, moving on to Q&A. It's the question time. So the first question comes from Baz_man, and they say, have you wanted to do another franchise like Digimon or something else? I can't even tell you how, I get inundated with messages of going, hey, have you thought about doing this franchise? Hey, have you tried doing this franchise? And it's just, they're like, no. Like, you have to remember that, like, Pokemon, that was my jam when I was a kid. That was one of the things that I loved. And I did like other franchises. I like Digimon, I like Metabots, I like Beyblades, and, you know, I liked all of those things. But that doesn't really interest me, especially in the sense that, like, if I started that, there would be an expectation of me doing the same thing that I did with Pokemon in terms of, like, working through it. And I don't want to do that. I've made that evidently clear. Like, I want to draw a line under this at some point. Yes, I've done some fan things before, like Bowser, Yoshi, and Toad. I've also done Appa and Momo from Avatar: The Last Airbender. And I've done these, like, other characters and stuff, but they've mainly been commissions from companies to do promotions for something. And, you know, like I did Dota 2 and League of Legends. I think it was Cho'Gath and Pudge. And loads of people, they're like, you're going to do more of these, right? And I was like, no, not at all. These were promotional images for Red Bull, or esports more specifically. Yeah, unless somebody else comes in and commissions me to do more, I'm good. Thanks. I don't even play those games, so most of the people, they're like, oh, you should do this character, and I was like, I don't know who that is, and I'm not going to look it up. I don't mean to be dismissive about the franchises people love. Like, I'm sure they're awesome, they're just not my cup of tea. It was not something that I've experienced. So as I explained before with the creatures, I just want to do something that's mine, you know, and for that to be the popular thing, and that's the thing that I can grow and develop and make interesting things, you know. So yeah, so no, I'm afraid not. As I always say, I'm always happy for commissions. I've done some cool commissions before, mainly Pokemon. But yeah, if you come to me and say, I want you to do a Digimon, then yeah, we can work something out. We can do a commission. The next question we've got here from Javi Javi Q. I don't know whether or not that's Javi Javi or Javi Javi, because it's spelled with a J. Anyway, I'm going to say Javi Javi, sorry. Javi Javi Q says, will you do 3D models? So that is something that I want to look into. I've experimented getting some 3D prints done before with some companies, and they've done well, but they've generally been too expensive for me to, you know, develop and sell myself, because the markup would be too high. Like, I wouldn't want to charge people that, and they're expensive for me as well. Like, I don't want to have to pay a stupid amount just to get like a handful of models that I'll sell for pennies more. A lot of people said I should get my own 3D printer. I'm in a small flat in London. I don't have anywhere to put a 3D printer. I don't have like a garage or somewhere that I can like get rid of the fumes or anything like that. So that's not something that I'm looking into. However, I do want to look into STL files. This might not be for the Pokemon purely because there's a risk with Pokemon. They've been amazing so far. Like, the actual company have been amazing. They've let me continue what I'm doing. They are very aware of me. They like my work. I've heard that through many sources, mainly professional ones. I've had companies come to me and go, we were recommended towards you by Pokemon. I'm like, great. Why hasn't Pokemon come through? So, you know, they've been very cool with me, and that is amazing. Very lucky in that respect. But I have to be careful about treading on their toes. I don't want to start creating essentially a toy line, and I know a lot of people are going, no, action figures, I'm like, yeah, or statues. Yeah, I get it, yeah. But in terms of a legal sense, they might be depicted as a toy line. So I don't want to start treading on their toes, and for them to get upset about that and be like, you're kind of encroaching on our turf and using our IP. So that's something I'm trying to kind of step away from. But because of the creatures thing, that's something that I can fully expand. So I'm thinking about doing STL files for my creatures, which might be really cool, and maybe further on along the line I can team up with a 3D printing company, one that can handle the kind of stock levels that I'd be looking for. I get messaged and it's lovely, and I get messaged by so many people asking to do 3D prints of my work, and it's very, very flattering. However, they always want the Pokemon, which is understandable, but so I can't offer that. They can't ever kind of if I say, yeah, I'll work with you, they can maybe print off one or two, which is fine. But what I would be looking for is someone like a proper company that can handle it and that can print a lot that I can sell at Comic-Cons, I can sell online. I'm even looking into, and I said this before with my creature stuff, of doing some kind of Dungeons and Dragons stats with them, so it would be really nice if I could sell miniatures as well. So that's something that I'm thinking about. If you work for or own or know of a really decent 3D printing company that isn't blindingly expensive, do drop me a DM, let me know, because that would be really cool, because it'd be something that I can work on, and that can be a special offering on the Patreon for the creature section. In terms of Pokemon, I'm holding off on that for now. If I do eventually do it, it'll be working with a company that has a Pokemon license so that they can be officially franchised. And I have talked to people like that in the past. It's obviously still very much up in the air. COVID has not been helpful with any of these kinds of things. We'll see what happens and see where the world takes us. So I'm actually recording this on election day, so that's exciting. Who knows? At the moment, it's just insanely 50-50, so we have no idea what's going to... Once this comes out, it'll probably be decided, and we will see. I'm staying neutral. I have my political, but everyone's entitled to their own opinions, so I'm holding my tongue. But finally, I just want to quickly do a shout out to my Patreon supporters, and we've got Ashley Plumridge, Nikki Wolf, Francisco Pardes, and Elvis Ditto. So thank you guys. Thank you for all of your support. Last thing I'll quickly say is that I currently have a sale on for the whole of November. My Christmas sale. And I know what you're thinking, Josh, it's literally just been Halloween. Yes, you're right. However, due to COVID being such a huge problem around the world, the postage service is dramatically slowed down. And then, of course, with Christmas around the corner, we all know how bad the postage gets around Christmas. It gets absolutely swamped. So I decided to bring it forward so that people can get the presents that they want for other people, presents they want for themselves, so that they actually receive them. So thank you to everyone for listening to this. Really appreciate it. You're all amazing. As always, please check out my Patreon and my Etsy page. Your support goes such a long way. It's crazy. And it means the world to me. With that, thank you very much. Much love, and keep safe.